The spaceship landed softly on the red soil of planet Veridax. Minho stood at the window and looked out at the strange new world. He was the lead diplomat for Earth, and today was very important. His team had traveled for 3 months to reach this place. The air outside looked thick and orange, large purple trees grew everywhere, and the sky was a deep green color. "Are you ready?" Hana asked. She was Minho's assistant and had been working with him for 5 years. She carried a datapad with all their notes and plans. "As ready as I can be," Minho said. He adjusted his blue uniform and took a deep breath. "The Krell are not easy to talk to. We must be very careful." The Krell were a warrior race. They were tall and strong, with thick gray skin and sharp teeth. They controlled 3 solar systems and had resources that Earth needed badly, but they did not trust other species easily. Many alien races had tried to make deals with them. All had failed. Jiho checked the ship's systems one more time. He was the team's engineer, a quiet man who preferred machines to people. "Everything is working fine," he said. "The translation devices are ready. The gift packages are secure." Nari, the team's scientist, was studying her scanner. "The atmosphere is safe for us," she reported, "but the temperature is hot, very hot." Captain Day stood near the door. He was in charge of security. "Remember the rules," he said. "No sudden movements, no touching anything without permission. The Krell see touch as a challenge." Yuna, the cultural researcher, nodded. She had studied the Krell for years. "They value strength above all," she reminded everyone, "but they also respect honesty. Do not lie to them. Do not try to trick them." The door opened with a hiss. Hot air rushed into the ship. The team walked down the ramp together. Waiting for them was a group of Krell warriors. They were huge, each one at least 8 feet tall. They wore armor made of some dark metal. Long spears stood in the ground beside them. In the center stood the chieftain. He was the largest of all, with scars covering his arms and face. His eyes were yellow and bright. "Humans," he said. His voice was deep like thunder. "I am Thorvok. You have come far." Minho stepped forward. "Yes, Chieftain Thorvok. We thank you for meeting with us. Earth wants to be friends with the Krell people." Thorvok made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Friends? Many say this word, few mean it." He gestured with one large hand. "Come, we will talk in the ceremonial hall. There is a tradition we must follow first." The humans followed the Krell through a settlement of stone buildings. Other Krell watched them pass. Some looked curious. Others looked angry. Children ran alongside, pointing at the strange visitors. The ceremonial hall was a large room with high ceilings. The walls were covered in carvings, showing battles and hunts. A long table sat in the middle. The Krell sat on one side. The humans sat on the other. "Before we discuss trade," Thorvok said, "you must meet my son." He clapped his hands twice. A door at the back opened. A young Krell entered. He was smaller than the adults, maybe the size of a large earth dog. His skin was lighter gray, and his eyes were bright orange. This was the chieftain's cub, probably only a few years old. "This is Grak," Thorvok said with pride in his voice. "He will one day lead our people. It is our custom that visitors must show respect to the next leader." Minho nodded. "Of course. We are honored to meet him." But Grak did not look honored. He looked at the humans and growled. It was a low, angry sound. His small teeth showed. His body tensed like he was ready to attack. Hana tried to smile. "Hello, Grak," she said softly. The cub growled louder. He took a step toward her, and she stepped back quickly. "Perhaps a gift?" Yuna suggested. She pulled out a small device that made musical sounds. "Children often like—" Grak snarled at the device. He swatted it with one paw, sending it flying across the room. The Krell warriors shifted in their seats. Some put their hands on their weapons. "He is spirited," Thorvox said, but his voice held a warning. "He must accept you. This is part of the ceremony." Minho felt sweat on his back. This was not in any of their plans. "What happens if he does not accept us?" Thorvox's eyes grew cold. "Then you are not worthy of our friendship. You must leave and never return." Nari tried next. She held out some food from Earth. "Maybe he is hungry?" Grak knocked the food away. He growled at Nari until she backed away. His tail lashed back and forth like an angry cat. Captain Day took a turn. He stood very still and tried to look calm and strong. But Grak circled him, growling the whole time. When Day tried to kneel down, Grak snapped his teeth at him. One by one, each team member tried. One by one, Grak rejected them all. The young Krell seemed to grow more aggressive with each attempt. He prowled around the room, making threatening sounds at anyone who looked at him. The Krell warriors watched in silence. Their faces showed no emotion, but their body language was clear. This was not going well. Jiho had stayed in the back, near the wall. He watched the cub carefully. He noticed how Grak's ears went flat when people spoke too loudly, how he backed away slightly when someone moved too fast, how his growls got louder when people stared directly at him. This was not anger, Jiho realized. This was fear. The cub was scared of all these strangers. He was using aggression to protect himself. Thorvox stood up. "Enough," he said. "My son has made his choice clear. You humans are not—" "Wait," Jiho said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. "Please, let me try one more thing." Minho looked worried but nodded. "Go ahead, Jiho." Jiho walked forward slowly. He did not look directly at Grak. He kept his movements smooth and gentle. He knelt down on the floor, making himself smaller, less threatening. Grak growled, but it was not as loud as before. Jiho did not speak. He did not offer any gifts. He simply extended one finger and very slowly, very gently, reached toward the cub's nose. The room held its breath. Jiho's finger touched the tip of Grak's nose. Just a soft tap, a boop. Grak stopped growling. His eyes went wide with surprise. The cub stood completely still. His mouth was open in surprise. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Even the Krell warriors seemed frozen in place. Jiho's finger stayed on the tip of Grak's nose for just a moment. Then he pulled it back. The cub blinked. He tilted his head to one side, confused. Jiho booped the nose again. Tap, soft and quick. Grak made a sound. It was not a growl. It was more like a chirp, a questioning sound. His tail stopped lashing. His ears came up from their flat position. "What is he doing?" Hana whispered to Minho. "I have no idea," Minho whispered back. "But do not interrupt." Jiho booped the cub's nose a third time. This time, Grak leaned into it. The orange eyes closed for just a second. When they opened again, they were not angry anymore. They were curious. The cub took a step closer to Jiho. He sniffed the engineer's hand. Then he pushed his nose forward, bumping it against Jiho's finger. It was like he was asking for another boop. Jiho smiled. He gave the cub what he wanted. Boop! Grak made a happy chirping sound. He sat down on his back legs, tail wagging now like an earth dog. He pushed his nose forward again. Boop! More chirping. Grak's whole body seemed to relax. He was not scared anymore. He was not angry. He was just a young creature enjoying a gentle touch. "Impossible," one of the Krell warriors said. "Nobody has ever calmed the young prince before." Thorvox stood up slowly. He walked over to where Jiho knelt with his son. The chieftain's face was hard to read. He looked down at them for a long moment. "What is this boop?" he asked. Jiho stood up but kept his hand where Grak could reach it. "On Earth we have many animals, dogs, cats, and others. When they are young and scared, sometimes we touch their nose gently. It calms them, shows them we are not dangerous. And this works? Thorvok asked. Most of the time, Jiho said. Young animals often act tough when they are afraid, but gentle touch can show them there is nothing to fear. Grak pushed his nose against Jiho's hand again. The cub was definitely asking for more boops. Thorvok watched as Jiho gave his son another gentle tap on the nose. Grak chirped happily. The chieftain's expression slowly changed. A smile, scary and full of sharp teeth, but still a smile, appeared on his face. In all the years visitors have come here, Thorvok said, not one has understood my son. They try to impress him. They try to bribe him. They try to show dominance. He shook his head. But you, human engineer, you simply showed him kindness. It seemed like the right thing to do, Jiho said. Grak was now rubbing his head against Jiho's leg. The cub made content sounds, like a cat purring. He was completely different from the aggressive creature from before. Thorvok called to his warriors. The ceremony is complete. My son has accepted these humans. He looked at Minho. You may speak of trade now, Earth diplomat. But before Minho could say anything, Grak suddenly darted away from Jiho. The humans tensed, worried he might become aggressive again. But instead, the cub ran to Hana. He sat in front of her and pushed his nose up toward her hand. I think he wants you to boop him, Yuna said with wonder in her voice. Hana looked nervous but reached down. She tapped Grak's nose gently with one finger. The cub chirped with joy. Then he ran to Nari, nose up, waiting. Nari laughed and gave him a boop. Grak spun in a circle, happy and excited. He went to each human, one by one. Each one gave him a gentle nose tap. Each time, he chirped and wagged his tail. He demands boops from everyone now, Captain Day said, smiling as the cub reached him. He booped the nose carefully. Grak seemed very pleased. Finally, the cub came to Minho. The diplomat knelt down, suddenly feeling the weight of this moment. He was not just meeting a child. He was creating a bond between two species. He reached out and booped Grak's nose. The cub chirped loudly and then did something unexpected. He licked Minho's hand. One quick, rough lick. Then he ran back to Jiho and sat beside him, looking up at the engineer with complete trust. My son has chosen you as his friend, Thorvok said to Jiho. This is a great honor, the highest honor we can give. Jiho looked overwhelmed. I just tapped his nose. You saw past his anger to his fear, Thorvok explained. You responded with gentleness, not force. This is wisdom. He gestured to the table. Please sit. We have much to discuss. But first, I want to understand more about this booping. The meeting continued, but it was completely different now. The Krell warriors were relaxed. They asked questions about Earth animals, about how humans raised their young, about why gentleness worked better than force sometimes. Yuna explained about Earth dogs and how humans had lived with them for thousands of years. We learned to understand what animals need, she said. Not just food and water. They need to feel safe. They need kind touch. Nari added information about human children. We touch our babies all the time. We hold them. We stroke their hair. Touch is how we show love and safety. The Krell listened carefully. Thorvok translated for the warriors who did not speak the common language. Jiho could see them nodding. Some looked surprised. Others looked thoughtful. Grak stayed close to Jiho the whole time. Every few minutes, he would push his nose toward the engineer, demanding another boop. Jiho always gave it to him. The other humans took turns, too. The cub went around the table, collecting boops like treasures. We Krell are warriors, Thorvok said. We value strength, but perhaps we have forgotten about gentleness. He reached down and carefully, imitating what he had seen, booped his son's nose. Grak froze. Then he made the loudest, happiest chirp yet. He jumped up and put his front paws on his father's leg. Thorvok looked shocked. Then he laughed, a deep, booming sound that filled the hall. "He has never done that with me before," the chieftain said quietly. There was emotion in his voice. "I am his father, but I have been too stern, too focused on making him strong." He booped Grak's nose again. "Perhaps strength and gentleness can exist together?" The other Krell warriors watched their leader play with his son. One by one they approached. They wanted to try booping too. Grak was more than happy to let them. Soon the fierce warriors were all taking turns giving the cub gentle nose taps. Minho caught Jiho's eye across the table. The diplomat smiled and nodded. This was better than any speech he could have given, better than any trade deal he could have offered. The humans had shown the Krell something new, something valuable. "Earth diplomat," Thorvok said, attention back to business. "You came to discuss trade, mining rights in our system, use of our space routes." "Yes," Minho said. "We have proposals that could benefit both our peoples." Thorvok nodded. "I will hear them, but I want something else too. I want your team to teach my people this booping. I want them to learn about gentleness with young ones. We have many children in our cities. Perhaps we have been raising them wrong." "We can do that," Yuna said eagerly. "I would be happy to share what we know." Grak yawned, showing all his small teeth. He curled up next to Jiho's chair. The excitement had tired him out. Within moments, he was asleep, one paw touching Jiho's boot. "My son trusts you completely," Thorvok observed. "This tells me everything I need to know about humans. Yes, we will make this trade agreement. But more than that, we will make a friendship." The next morning, Grak was waiting outside the human ship before anyone was awake. He sat at the bottom of the ramp, making chirping sounds. When Jiho opened the door, the cub rushed up to him immediately, nose up, demanding. Jiho laughed and booped him. "Good morning to you too." Grak made happy sounds and ran in circles around Jiho's legs. Then he noticed Nari coming down the ramp. He ran to her, nose up again. "He has been here since sunrise," Thorvok's voice said from behind them. The chieftain walked over with several other Krell. "He refused to eat breakfast until he got his morning boops." Nari gave the cub his requested boop. Grak wagged his tail so hard his whole back end moved. "He is addicted to them now," Thorvok continued, but he said it with a smile. "Last night, he woke me up 3 times. Just walked over and pushed his nose at me." "Did you boop him?" Jiho asked. "Of course I did," Thorvok said. "What kind of father would I be if I did not?" The big warrior looked almost embarrassed. "My mate thinks I have gone soft, but she tried it too, and she smiled when Grak chirped at her." More Krell were gathering around the ship now. Word had spread through the settlement about what happened at the ceremony. Everyone wanted to see the cub who had been tamed by the humans. Minho stepped out with the rest of the team. "Good morning, chieftain. We are ready to begin today's discussions." "Yes, about the trade agreement," Thorvok said. "But first, my people have a request. They want to learn this booping technique. Many have young cubs at home. Cubs that are difficult and aggressive like Grak was." Yuna's eyes lit up. This was exactly her area of expertise. "We would be happy to teach, but it is not just about the boop itself. It is about understanding why it works." Thorvok gestured to the gathered Krell. "Then teach us." An area was set up near the ceremonial hall. The Krell brought their young cubs, about 20 in total. The cubs ranged from very small to almost adult size. Most of them looked nervous or angry about being there. Some growled at the humans. Others tried to hide behind their parents. "This is normal," Nari explained to the crowd. "Young creatures feel vulnerable around strangers. They protect themselves by acting tough." She pointed to a small cub who was snarling at everyone. "See how his ears are flat? How he keeps backing away? He is not truly aggressive, he is scared." Captain Day helped demonstrate with Grak, who was happily showing off his newfound love of boops. "The key is to approach slowly. Make yourself smaller by kneeling down. Do not stare directly at them. Quick movements scare them. Jiho took over the explanation. When you boop the nose, use just one finger. Be gentle. It should feel like a friendly tap, not a poke. You are not trying to control them. You are just saying hello. The Krell parents looked skeptical. These were warriors, people who solved problems with strength. This seemed too simple, too soft. "Let me try with that one," a female Krell warrior said. She pointed to a cub that had been growling at everyone. "My nephew. He bites everyone who gets close." Yuna nodded. "Go ahead. Remember, slow movements, gentle touch." The warrior approached her nephew. The cub growled louder, but she knelt down as instructed. She held out one large finger. Slowly, she reached toward the cub's nose. The cub snapped at her, but she was patient. She waited, tried again. This time, her finger touched the cub's nose for just a moment. Boop! The cub stopped growling. He looked confused. The warrior booped again. The cub tilted his head. Then, amazingly, he chirped. Just a small sound, but it was not aggressive. The watching Krell gasped. The warrior looked at her hand like it had become magic. "He has never made that sound before," she said with wonder. "Try again," Hana encouraged. Another boop, another chirp. The cub took a step closer to his aunt. She booped him again, and he nuzzled against her hand. "It works," the warrior said. Tears appeared in her yellow eyes. "It actually works." Other Krell wanted to try now. Parents approached their cubs with new understanding. Some cubs accepted the boops right away, others took time. But slowly, one by one, the aggressive behaviors faded. Chirps and happy sounds replaced growls. One large Krell male struggled with his daughter. She was one of the bigger cubs and very aggressive. She kept swatting at his hand. Jiho came over to help. "Try not reaching for her directly. Put your hand down low and let her come to you." The male did as suggested. He knelt down and placed his hand flat on the ground. His daughter watched suspiciously, but slowly she crept closer. She sniffed the hand. Then, carefully, she pushed her nose against his finger. He booped her gently. She jumped back, surprised, but then she came forward again. Nose out, asking. Another boop. This time she chirped. The male warrior. This huge, fierce being started crying. "She has not let me touch her in 2 years, he said. "I thought she hated me." "She was scared," Yuna said gently. "Now she knows you will not hurt her, that you can be gentle." The male kept booping his daughter. She climbed into his lap, something she clearly had not done in a long time. He held her carefully and continued giving her gentle nose taps. All around the area, similar scenes played out. Warriors who had led armies were now sitting on the ground with their cubs, learning to be soft, learning that strength could include gentleness. Thorvok watched everything with Grak beside him. The chieftain kept one hand on his son's head, occasionally booping his nose. "You humans have given us more than trade," he said to Minho. "You have given us back our children." "It is a gift we are happy to share," Minho replied. An older Krell approached. She was bent with age, her skin weathered and scarred. "I am Thorvok's mother," she said. "I raised him to be strong, to never show weakness." She looked at her son playing gently with his cub. "But I see now I may have taught him wrong. Strength without love is just violence." She turned to the humans. "May an old warrior try this booping?" Grak, sensing a new person to boop him, immediately trotted over. He sat in front of the elder and pushed his nose up. The old female's hands shook slightly as she raised one finger. She booped Grak's nose. The cub chirped and nuzzled against her leg. She booped him again, and a smile broke across her weathered face. "My grandson never approached me before," she said. "I was too stern, too hard." She kept booping Grak, who was clearly enjoying all this attention. I wish I had known this when Thorvak was young. Thorvak came over and put a hand on his mother's shoulder. You did your best with what you knew. Now we know better. We can do better. The teaching session continued for hours. The humans showed the Krell not just how to boop, but why it mattered. They talked about trust, about communication, about how young creatures needed to feel safe before they could be brave. Nari gave a presentation using her datapad. She showed videos of Earth animals with their young, dogs licking puppies, cats grooming kittens, elephants touching their babies with their trunks. All species have ways of showing care through touch, she explained. It is universal. The Krell watched the videos with fascination. They asked questions. They wanted to learn everything. By late afternoon, the area was full of happy cubs and relaxed parents. The aggressive behaviors had mostly disappeared. In their place was trust and affection. One of the warriors stood up to address the crowd. We have been wrong about raising our young. We thought making them tough meant keeping them afraid. But these humans have shown us different. We can be strong and gentle at the same time. The other Krell nodded in agreement. Many were still sitting with their cubs, practicing the booping technique. The cubs were calm and content. Grak had made it his mission to get boops from every single Krell in the area. He went from person to person, demanding nose taps. Nobody refused him. Even the most fierce warriors smiled when the little cub chirped at them. Thorvak called for attention. Today we have learned something important. These humans came to trade resources, but they gave us something more valuable. They reminded us that gentleness is not weakness. That love makes us stronger, not weaker. He looked at the human team. Tomorrow we will finalize the trade agreement, but today you have earned something no other species has earned. The respect of every Krell warrior here. You did not win us with weapons or threats. You won us by showing kindness to a scared cub. The gathered Krell roared their approval. It was a thunderous sound, but not scary. It was the sound of agreement, of respect. The third day on Veridac started with an official ceremony. Captain Day stood before a gathering of over 300 Krell. They filled the great assembly hall, warriors from different cities across the planet. All had come to learn about the humans and their mysterious power over aggressive cubs. Grak sat right in front, of course. He had appointed himself as the official greeter. Every Krell who entered had to boop his nose first. It had become a requirement. The fierce warriors would smile and kneel down to give the young prince his demanded nose tap before finding their seats. Welcome, Thorvak announced from his platform. We are here today for two purposes. First, to sign the trade agreement with Earth. Second, and more important, to learn the ways of gentleness from our new friends. Captain Day had not expected to be a teacher. He was a military man, trained in combat and protection. But Minho had asked him to lead this session, and Day took his responsibilities seriously. I am a soldier, Day began, speaking to the crowd. I have fought in battles. I understand strength and discipline. But I have also learned that the strongest warriors are not always those who fight. Sometimes the strongest are those who know when to be gentle. The Krell listened quietly. Coming from a fellow warrior, these words had weight. When we arrived here, your young prince was aggressive toward us. He saw us as threats. His instinct was to attack. Day gestured to Grak, who chirped at the attention. But aggression from a cub is usually fear. They do not have the experience to judge real danger from imagined danger, so they treat everything as dangerous. A Krell warrior raised his hand. How do we know when to be gentle and when to be firm? Cubs must learn discipline too. Good question, Day said. Gentleness is not the same as weakness. You can still teach discipline while showing care. Let me demonstrate. Jiho brought over Grak. The cub was happy to help. He loved being the center of attention, and getting boops from everyone. When Grak does something good, like sitting calmly, I reward him. Day booped the cub's nose. Grak chirped happily. This teaches him that calm behavior gets positive results. Day stood up and pretended to walk away. Grak started to follow, but Day held up his hand in a stop gesture. "Stay," he said firmly but not harshly. Grak sat back down, though he looked confused. "Good," Day said, returning quickly to boop the cub again. "He followed instruction, so he gets rewarded immediately. This is discipline with kindness." The Krell watched carefully. This was a new concept for many of them. Yuna joined the demonstration. On Earth, we call this positive reinforcement. We reward good behavior instead of only punishing bad behavior. Young creatures learn faster and become more confident this way. She showed how to redirect aggressive behavior, too. When Grak got too excited and started to nibble on Day's hand, she gently pushed his nose away. "No," she said calmly. Then, when he stopped, she immediately booped his nose. "Yes, good." Grak quickly learned. Nibbling meant no boop. Sitting calmly meant yes boop. Within minutes, he was sitting perfectly still, waiting for his reward. "Amazing," an older Krell warrior said. "We have been teaching our young through fear and punishment. We thought that made them strong." "It made them obedient," Hana corrected gently. "But not strong. True strength comes from confidence. And confidence comes from knowing you are safe and loved." The demonstrations continued. Different Krell brought their cubs forward to practice. Captain Day worked with each one, showing the parents how to mix firmness with gentleness. One cub was particularly difficult. He kept trying to bite and would not sit still. His father looked frustrated. "He is impossible," the father said. "I have tried everything." Day knelt down near the cub but did not try to touch him. "What is his name?" "Vrak," the father replied. "Hello, Vrak," Day said softly. He did not reach for the cub. Instead, he just sat there, patient and calm. Minutes passed. Vrak kept growling but slowly moved closer. Curiosity was winning over fear. Finally, Vrak's nose was close enough. Day very slowly raised one finger. He booped the nose so gently it was barely a touch. Vrak jumped back, but he did not run away. He watched Day carefully. Day held out his finger again, waiting. Vrak crept forward. Another boop. This time, the cub did not jump. He made a small chirp. "You have to be patient," Day explained to the father. "Some cubs take longer to trust. That does not make them bad. It makes them cautious. Caution can be good." The father nodded, understanding. When Day handed him back to his father, Vrak was much calmer. The father tried booping him, and Vrak chirped for his father for the first time ever. Nari had set up a research station in the corner. She was documenting everything, taking notes on how different cubs responded to different approaches. "This is fascinating," she said to Yuna. "The booping works across species. The concept of gentle touch as communication seems to be universal." "It makes sense," Yuna replied. "All young creatures need care. All parents want to protect their young. Touch is the most basic form of communication." Minho was working on the official trade documents with Thorvok's advisors, but he kept stopping to watch the training sessions. The real value of this mission was not in the resources they would trade, it was in this cultural exchange. "Your people are natural teachers," one of Thorvok's advisors commented. "You show genuine care for our young ones." "On Earth, we believe children are the future," Minho said. "How we treat them determines what kind of adults they become. We want to raise humans who are both strong and kind." The advisor nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps this is why your species has been so successful. You do not just conquer, you connect." By midday, nearly every cub in the assembly hall was calm and happy. The aggressive behaviors had transformed into playful curiosity. Cubs that had been fighting each other were now playing together. Parents who had been stern and distant were now actively engaged with their children. Grak had become something of a celebrity. He wandered through the hall, collecting boops from everyone. He seemed to understand that he was special, that he had started all of this. He carried himself with pride, but also with the innocent joy of a young creature who felt loved. One particularly touching moment came when an adult Krell approached nervously. She was a warrior, tall and scarred from battle, but her voice was soft when she spoke. "Can adults be booped?" she asked. Hana smiled. "Of course. Everyone needs gentle touch sometimes." The warrior knelt down, making herself smaller. "I never learned how to show affection. My parents did not know how. I do not want my cub to grow up the same way." Hana reached out and gently tapped the warrior's nose with one finger. The warrior's eyes went wide. Then she smiled. Really smiled. Probably for the first time in years. "Thank you," the warrior whispered. Then she went to find her cub to practice what she had learned. Captain Day gathered all the Krell parents for a final lesson. The most important thing to remember is consistency. Boop your cubs every day. Make it part of your routine. Morning boops, evening boops. Anytime they seem scared or upset, offer a boop. "What if they refuse?" a parent asked. "Then you wait," Day replied. "Never force it. The boop only works if they accept it willingly. Patience is key," Jiho added. "And remember, it is not just about the boop itself. It is about what the boop represents. You are telling them they are safe, that you care about them. That gentle touch is normal and good." The training session ended with a celebration. The Krell brought out food and drink. Music played, strange and beautiful. The cubs ran around playing, stopping occasionally to demand boops from any adult nearby. Nobody refused them. Thorvok stood with Minho watching the scene. "You have changed us," the chieftain said. "In 3 days you have done what centuries of tradition could not. You have shown us that we can be warriors and caregivers at the same time." "You had it in you already," Minho said. "We just reminded you." Grak came running up, of course. He booped himself against Thorvok's leg, then against Minho's leg, demanding attention from both. Both leaders knelt down together and booped the cub's nose simultaneously. Grak's chirp of joy was so loud it echoed through the hall. "Tomorrow we sign the treaty," Thorvok said, "but tonight we celebrate a new way of being Krell. A better way." The celebration lasted late into the night, and through it all, the sound of happy cubs chirping filled the air. The morning of the treaty signing was perfect. The green sky was clear, and the purple trees swayed gently in the warm breeze. The humans gathered outside their ship, preparing for the ceremony. But something was missing. "Where is Grak?" Jiho asked, looking around. "Here," a small voice said in careful English. They all turned to see Grak trotting toward them. Behind him walked Thorvok. "He learned a human word," the chieftain explained with pride. "He has been practicing all night. He wanted to surprise you." Grak sat in front of Jiho and very clearly said, "Boop." Jiho laughed with delight. "Yes, you can have a boop." He tapped the cub's nose. Grak chirped and then went to each human in turn, saying his new word. "Boop, boop, boop." Each person gave him what he asked for. Each time, Grak made his happy chirping sound. "He is learning fast," Nari observed. "Cubs are excellent at picking up new languages." "He wants to learn more human words," Thorvok said. "He thinks if he speaks your language, you will never leave." The words hung in the air. The humans would have to leave eventually. They had families and duties back on Earth. But the thought of leaving Grak made them all sad. "We will visit," Hana promised, kneeling down to give Grak another boop. "And we will teach your people to use communication devices. You can call us any time." The walk to the ceremonial hall was like a parade. Krell lined the streets, all wanting to see the humans one more time. Many had their cubs with them. The cubs were calm and happy, nothing like the aggressive creatures from before. Parents waved at the humans. Some called out thanks. Others simply booped their own cubs' noses, showing they had learned the lesson. Inside the hall, everything was prepared. The treaty document sat on a special table made of dark crystal. Krell leaders from all the cities on Veridax were present. Human and Krell flags hung side by side. Thorvok stood at one side of the table. Minho stood at the other. Between them, surprisingly, was a small cushion. On the cushion sat Grak. "My son started this friendship," Thorvok announced to the gathered crowd. "It is only right that he witness its formalization." The treaty was read aloud in both languages. It covered trade agreements, mining rights, space route access, and military protection. Earth and the Krell would be allies. They would help each other, protect each other. But there was a new section added to the treaty. Section 7, Cultural Exchange. Yuna read it aloud. The Krell and humans agree to share knowledge about raising young. Human experts will visit Krell worlds to teach about child development. Krell families will share their traditions of strength and honor. Together, we will learn to raise children who are both strong and gentle. The Krell leaders nodded approval. This was as important to them as any trade deal. Minho signed the document with an earth pen. Thorvok signed with a traditional Krell claw marker. Then, Thorvok pressed Grak's small paw into ink and gently pressed it onto the treaty. A tiny paw print appeared next to the two signatures. 3 signatures, Thorvok said. Human, Krell, and the cub who brought us together. The hall erupted in cheers. The sound was deafening but joyful. Grak chirped along, not understanding everything but knowing it was a happy moment. He immediately turned and pushed his nose toward Minho. "Boop?" Minho booped him, fighting back tears. "You are going to change the galaxy, little one." The celebration feast was enormous. Tables were filled with food from both Earth and Veridax. Music played, a blend of human and Krell songs. Warriors danced with their cubs. It was chaos and joy mixed together. Captain Day found himself surrounded by young Krell warriors. They wanted to know about Earth military training, but their questions were not about weapons and battle. They wanted to know how Earth soldiers learned both combat skills and compassion. "We train hard," Day explained. "We learn to fight, to protect. But we also learn why we fight. We fight to protect those who cannot protect themselves. We fight so that children can grow up safe and happy." One young warrior nodded. "This is what we want. To be strong but not cruel, fierce but not heartless." "Then you are already on the right path," Day told him. Nari was sharing her research findings with Krell scientists. They were fascinated by the biological and psychological benefits of gentle touch. They wanted to study this more, to understand exactly how it changed brain development in young cubs. "We could publish papers together," one Krell scientist suggested. "Combine your research with our observations." "I would like that very much," Nari replied. This was the best kind of collaboration. Knowledge shared between species. Jiho sat quietly in a corner, watching everything. Grak found him there and climbed into his lap without asking. The cub curled up, content just to be near his favorite human. "You did good," Hana said, sitting down next to them. "You changed everything with one simple gesture." "I just saw a scared kid," Jiho said, stroking Grak's head gently. "Anyone would have done the same." "No," Hana said firmly. "Many species tried to meet with the Krell. None of them saw past the aggression. They saw a threat and responded with fear or dominance. You saw past that. You saw someone who needed kindness." Grak made a contented sound in his sleep. His small body was warm and trusting. As the feast continued, Thorvok stood to make a speech. The hall quieted. "Friends," he began, Today we signed a treaty, but we gained more than an alliance. We gained wisdom. He gestured to the humans. When Earth asked to meet with us, we tested them as we test all visitors. We put my son before them, knowing his aggression drives away the weak and dishonest. The crowd listened intently. Every species before failed this test. They tried to impress Grak with gifts. They tried to dominate him with force. They tried to ignore him and talk only to me. Thorvok's voice grew stronger. But the humans did something different. They looked at my son and saw not a test, not an obstacle, not a tool. They saw a child who was scared. And they responded with love. He looked directly at the human team. You could have had weapons. You could have had bribes. Instead, you had something more powerful. You had compassion. You had the wisdom to be gentle with those who need gentleness. Thorvok raised his cup. The Krell value strength. We always will. But now we understand that true strength includes kindness. The humans have given us a new way to measure what it means to be strong. We declare them friends of cubs, friends of the Krell, friends forever. Every Krell in the hall roared their approval. The sound shook the walls. The humans stood and bowed, honored beyond words. The party continued late into the night. Cubs played together, mixing species and language without care. Adults talked about future plans. Scientists discussed research projects. Warriors shared training techniques. Eventually, the humans had to return to their ship. Departure was scheduled for the morning. Grak seemed to sense this. He stayed close to Jiho, refusing to leave his side. We have to go home, Jiho told the cub gently. But we will come back, I promise. Grak made a sad sound. He understood more than they realized. Thorvok came to collect his son. He does not want to say goodbye. We do not either, Minho admitted. This has been the most important mission of my career. Not because of the trade deal, because of him. He gestured to Grak. He changed us all, Thorvok agreed. He picked up his son carefully. Before you came, I did not know how to show love to my child. I knew only discipline and training. Now I know that a warrior can hug his son, can play with his son, can show gentleness without losing respect. He looked at Grak with such love. You gave me back my son. This is a debt I can never repay. You do not owe us anything, Hana said. We just reminded you of something you already knew in your hearts. The farewells were hard. Each human gave Grak a final boop. The cub chirped each time, but with less enthusiasm. He knew what was happening. When it was Jiho's turn, Grak pressed his whole face against the engineer's hand. Boop, the cub said sadly. Boop, boop, boop. Jiho gave him a dozen boops, tears in his eyes. Be good, little friend. Grow strong, grow kind. Show other cubs how brave you are. Grak made a decision then. He pulled away from his father and ran into the ship. Before anyone could stop him, he grabbed a small tool from Jiho's workbench. He brought it back and dropped it at Jiho's feet. It was a trade, something to remember him by. Jiho picked up the tool and pulled off his own scarf. Here, he said, wrapping it around Grak's neck like a collar. Now you have something to remember me by, too. Grak chirped and nuzzled the scarf. It smelled like Jiho, like safety, like friendship. The ship doors closed slowly. The humans stood at the window, watching the gathered Krell. Grak sat at the front, the scarf around his neck, watching them go. As the ship lifted off, Minho stood beside Jiho. Mission report time, he said. How do I explain this to Earth Command? We went to negotiate mining rights and ended up teaching an entire warrior race about nose boops. Jiho smiled through his tears. Tell them we succeeded through humanity's greatest strength, not weapons, not technology, just compassion. And boops, Nari added. Never forget the boops. The ship rose higher. Veridax got smaller below them, but none of them felt like they were leaving. They felt like they were carrying something with them. A reminder that the smallest gesture could change everything, that gentleness was strength, that love could bridge any gap between species. "We will be back," Captain Day said with certainty. "That cub down there is going to grow up to lead the Krell, and when he does, he will remember that humans taught him kindness first." They were right. Years later, when Grak became chieftain, the Krell would be known across the galaxy not just as warriors, but as protectors, as a species that valued both strength and compassion. And they would always, always teach their cubs about the humans who showed them that a single boop could change the world.